Oh God, I feel like I'm about to go into therapy. Well, I'll preface with I was always a really sensitive kid. I also had tendencies of just out of the gate being born. I was just a perfectionist through and through. I was really empathetic and emotional. I would cry all the time. I would not be able to go to school, elementary school, if I had a wrinkle in my sock. My hair had to be perfect. Everything had to be perfect. And I think a lot of people might see that as like a nurture versus nature thing. I kind of feel like it was sort of, I was born like that in a weird way. So I was already sort of an emotional kid that just really liked to cry. Sometimes I would, for fun, just stare at myself in the mirror and cry.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I don't know why.
That's so funny.
I can cry very easily. It is a special skill. It's like rollerblading, accents, crying in the mirror. No, but I think it's because I'm just so, my sensitivity, and I'm so sensitive even now to food, to medication, to men, to any, like life. Anything kind of looks at me the wrong way and I'm like I just start crying. And I kind of see it as a superpower now, but as a kid, I sort of knew that was something I could do to get out of things or to navigate my way of life. And so then when I was 12, I was just really good at accessing those emotions. And I also had really, really strict parents when it came to achievement. And I love my parents, but they were very high achievement. And I mean, you know my mom.
I do, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. We'll get into that later. But, you know, as a kid actor, there's a lot of pressure on making sure that you get the part and you're the best. And I really had that sort of built in. So when I was 12, I have this really particular moment that I actually directed and wrote a short film about. It's called Milkshake. And it's my first sort of foray into directing and writing. I did it in 2015. And it's about the moment when I realized I wanted to be an actor because I was doing this scene where I'm on soap opera, on Guiding Light. It's my initial scene. It's my first scene that I've ever done. And I get to yell at my mom on the soap opera. And I remember being 12 and I remember it's the pressure, you know this from Young and the Restless, like you only do the scenes maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
So the adrenaline is going, I'm 12 years old and somehow I realize I'm yelling at my mom in real life, even though I'm on set and I'm doing this sort of scene and I lose myself and I completely get into that sort of fuzzy feeling of dopamine and that high druggy feeling that I had never felt before. And I start crying and obviously because it's, you know, the only thing I know how to do. And then everyone in the studio starts applauding and I get that dopamine hit of, oh, this is how I get achievement. This is how I get validation, is using my sensitivity and my emotion. I'm going to do this shit for the rest of my life.
Wow. The way you just described that is like a psychedelic state.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Yeah. It was kind of, I mean, I tried to encapsulate that with the short. I don't think I did it right, but it's called Milkshake because my mom would really, and I, you know, I preface this with she, like many other parents did this, where you do a good job, you get a reward. So you do a good job, you get a milkshake. If you don't do a good job on the audition, you don't get a milkshake. And so the milkshake was really sort of this symbol of my relationship with my mom and wanting that validation. And also my addiction to milkshakes now. I love it.
Yeah. There's so much there, Brittany. I feel like I don't know which direction to go. But since you just shared your memory of kind of a first high on set, do you remember your first low on set as a kid?
I remember when I was unable to get there on set in terms of getting myself into a state of panic. I remember asking the stage manager, I don't know if I should share this because this is really sad. But I remember asking the stage manager to tell me that I was doing it wrong.
Whoa.
And so I would get sad. and then I would be able to
So you would, wow.
to use that. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I've also taken little bits of that into even now. I don't ask people to tell me I'm doing things wrong, but I think the awareness is still there of what to use.
You know, I can't help but I do remember in the scene in we were going to mention at some point in John Tucker Must Die, where I as a character am, it's always stuck out to me.
Oh God.
When my character, I don't remember what I'm saying, and I don't really remember. I don't remember what's happening, frankly.
I can't wait. There's a trend.
But I know that my character is saying to yours, he's basically like, he's kind of shaming you.
Yeah.
He's like saying, I thought you were different, something along those lines.
Oh yeah.
Because the whole arc of your character is that you're trying to, you know, what is she doing? She's trying to like out this guy, but then she sort of falls for him, and then she realizes maybe she's not better than, you know, it's like this humbling thing. And then I just remember in that scene, you got to a place of such vulnerability because I also, in order to, you know what, I'm remembering, in order to make you feel, we must have had some kind of understanding here, but I was trying to help you, you know, get there. And so I ad-libbed a little bit and said worse things than are in the script.
Oh
my God, I don't remember this at all. Wow. No.
So anyway,
maybe I blocked it out.
Yeah, and I mean, just a little. I mean, I'm not like, you know, I wouldn't have done anything like really out of pocket, but
right.
I'm just kind of, you know, there's an interesting, I don't know, degrees mirror there. I don't know. I
have really interesting memories of doing that movie because I always kind of felt like we were very similar to our characters. All of us were.
Everybody. And it's sort of true, yeah.
And so I did sort of feel like we were sort of the indie sensitive weirdos of that
of that bunch.
Of that bunch, yeah. And
do you remember that She's the Man was shooting there at the same time?
Oh wow.
I do.
Yeah. Wow. So we were all in the same hotel.
Wow. That's a fun.
Yeah, and I remember thinking that movie was going to be just so big and ours was going to be terrible, and then, you know, what do I know? So
yeah.
Well, that one was big at the time.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
It may not have
both are
like
iconic really well. Yeah.
We'll talk more about John Tucker Must Die probably, but just bring it back a little bit to middle school and ask you what your first experiences were around crushes, because that's a unique situation. You were going to school a couple days a week, going to work a couple days a week. What were your feelings around like romance at that age?
I was not very comfortable in myself when I was in middle school, obviously, who is really, but I went through a pretty hard time during middle school because I was being bullied, and I'm very open about this, about a charity that I started a long time ago, and I was on Guiding Light, and I was also going through some sort of, I didn't know what being pretty was, because there was sort of this juxtaposition of what I saw on the soap opera of these women who were so beautiful, and then I would go back to middle school and that was a different type of beauty, and so I was all mixed up. And I remember that my first boyfriend ever was this baseball guy named Chris, and sorry Chris, but I wasn't not to out him, but it was I wasn't into it. So I just kind of did the going through the motions of what you're supposed to do in middle school. And my first year of high school, I only went to 1 year of high school, my freshman year. And then I moved out to LA and met Penn and a whole group of people that we sort of,
we're like, we don't go to school here. Welcome.
Yeah, we just sort of like live in these weird apartments.
We write our own rules and go on auditions sometimes.
And hang out at Starbucks. Like, what were we doing?
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But no, yeah, my middle school was not really filled with any. I didn't have time for that. I was busy working. So it wasn't until I was 16 that I had my first real love or relationship with a friend of Penn's, Kyle. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm just remembering all this.
Thank God you came on, Brittany,
because I did not remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were there. You were like in the crowd. I remember.
Yeah.
I have very, very clear memories of seeing like you and Kyle and Dan and, all these guys are like, why are you bringing me up in this podcast? But it was my little community. I loved you guys.